Okay. Alright, this is not the last chance for anyone. Good, good, good. 3 patience and grace. Okay. It would be nice to have... I'm going to keep getting patience accidentally. 9 artistry and 9 grace. I think that makes sense. That's a big commitment of stuff. Let's do it. Jessie caught up with Sara in the hallway and followed along behind at her elbow. You're looking very pretty today, Sara. Do I look any different than usual? Maybe that's just Jessie's way of saying hello. Thank you. Of course, it's easy for you to be pretty because you have so many nice things and you have your own maid that we dress and style you, and I want to ask you a favor. What is it? You're the only girl I know here with your very own personal lady's maid. Lavi says her parents says she's too young. Don't tell her I told you that. It doesn't mean that she's jealous of you. I hadn't thought about Mariette as something to be jealous of. So, as it is, I was wondering if I could borrow her. Mariette, why? So that she could show me some new things to do with my hair? She's French, isn't she? She might even have been to Paris, and Paris is the very height of fashion. She might have all kinds of tricks, paints, embellishments, ways to curl hair without damage. I have to know. I have never seen her so passionate. Well, Mariette is not a thing that you can borrow, but I don't mind if you visit her. And if you ask her nicely, I'm sure she will talk to you at Paris Fashions. She does know a great deal more about hair and clothing than I do. But I think your hair looks perfectly nice as it is. It's not perfect, it's never perfect. She pulled a section of her long red hair over her shoulder and glared at it. Especially this color. It's unlucky, it's sinful, it's lustful. Witches and criminals and fallen women have red hair, not to mention the Irish, which I believe around this period of time, England, the Great Britain, we are actively suppressing the Irish. This is around Irish potato famine time, I think, maybe, thereabouts. Your hair can't make you sinful. Well, of course that's true, but it's what other people think that matters. And there's nothing I can do about it. Diet doesn't help. I could try to stain it black, but then it might be damaged, or mark my clothing, and I would be humiliated. She cut herself off, forcing her features back into the shape of a smile. I must not damage my hair, even if it is too long and heavy for the best dancing. It is my responsibility. You say you must, but I don't see why that would be so. Length of my hair is my one unique beauty. You see, it's something that other girls can't copy, not unless they spend years working at it like I have. It is my task to make myself as beautiful and accomplished as possible so that I can catch the eye of a gentleman. It's different for girls like you and Lavi. You are your father's only heir, you will be wealthy, and I will be pretty. Is that the only thing she wants to be? Well, come and visit me, and I will try to help you. Talk to Mariette. Thank you, you're so sweet. Now, Lottie, hold on to my hands. Will you pick me up? Not like that, your wrists are not strong enough. Hold my hands like so. Now pick one foot off the ground and stretch it out behind you. I feel wobbly. That's why I'm holding on to you. Press on my hand and try not to lean forward as you stretch. It feels strange. Sara came into the room to find Jessie and Lottie engaged in some manner of dance practice. Oh, Lottie, I can see your petticoats. Sara! She let go of Jessie and rushed over to Sara to demand a hug. Will you play with us? Play? I thought you were dancing. We weren't exactly dancing. I had an idea and wanted to see if she could do it. But I'd be happy to dance with you, Sara, if you would like. Where is Lavina? I would have expected her to be with you. Lavina has not been herself lately. She sighed, twisting up her beautiful long hair and then letting it fall again. Oh, Sara, it has always been so difficult. I've always admired Lavina so very much, but now... admired. Past tense. You bitch. Quite unexpectedly, Lavina swept into the room. Jessie's eyes went wide, her hands flying uselessly to cover her mouth. Yes, you admired me, didn't you? Only now there's a little diamond girl for you to admire, isn't there? You're nothing but a useless sycophant, Jessie Abbott. Yes, I know what that word means. I know a lot of things that nobody else does. Not even your precious Princess Sara. With a haughty tilt of her chin, she strode away. Jessie's eyes darted frantically back and forth, her cheeks taking on a lilac hue. Then, without a word, she crumpled the fabric of her skirt in her hands and hurried after Lavina. Sarah, Mama, what's a sycophant? A sycophant is someone who flatters an important person that they don't really like. Why? I don't know. Okay. Grace and Artistry is down. So I guess we'll work on getting that back up. And dance is pretty good for that, actually. Yeah, it's actually amazing at that. I just hope it doesn't help with the vigor, but... Reading a book can get some artistry, but it's mainly for knowledge, and we don't really need that right now. Well, here's an idea. Well... No, don't fall into the vigor trap. It never works. But what if it did? What if you practice dance, right? Okay, yeah. And then, maybe you even play with toys. Get a bit of belief in there, maybe. Some sympathy. But possibly also, maybe do that twice, even. And then you practice dance, and then you go for a walk. This is probably not going to work, but let's try. We doubled everything. We got one artistry. This could not be going worse. We get... These synergies, they don't synergize. My dear sir, how good it is to see you today. Thank you. As you know, your birthday will be upon us in only 2 short weeks. Yes. I am planning a grand celebration for you. We'll decorate the entire schoolroom and have a little party with activities for all the students. Then you'll open your gifts with great ceremony, and after they have been seen and admired, you'll proceed to a glittering feast where I will arrange some unusual treats. Is there anything particular that you would like for your special day, Sara? Will my papa be there? What was that? Oh, I only hoped he had written that maybe you'd like to be present for my birthday, and I hope that you might have had word. I'm sorry if Captain Crewe had made such plans he has not informed me. I was told only to have your gifts made ready for you. Oh. Now, do not lose hope, my dear. Messages travel so slowly that when the ocean is involved, it is always possible that ships are in motion even as we speak. However, even if your father is unable to attend the festivities, which quite frankly is fairly likely, I hope you will have a simply marvelous time and write to him all about it. Yes, Miss Minchin, thank you. Well, my dear, if you have no other special requests, then you may wish to return to your friends. There's another gentleman I need to speak with. Thank you. Good day. Upon leaving Miss Minchin's office, Sara briefly crossed the path of a sharp-featured, dry little gentleman who wore a neat tailored suit and eyeglasses. Good day. He nodded at her quite as if he already knew her name and saw no need for the two of them to be introduced once again. Good day. Something about his manner seemed mildly unsettling to Sara, but as he soon vanished into Miss Minchin's office, never to be seen again, she quite forgot all about him. Out of sight, Miss Minchin greeted her visitor. Ah, Mr. Barrow! Here are the next set of bills for Miss Crewe's celebrations. I have it on authority that the Parisian doll is nearly complete, and it will be delivered next week. The strange gentleman took the papers she handed him and regarded them with a sniff. You do not think this a trifle extravagant for such a young girl's birthday? Captain Crewe expected the very best for his daughter. I don't see how it is your place to judge. He ordered that your firm would pay all expenses, did he not? Yes, yes. You're very fond of the girl, then. She's my most important pupil. I see. Very well, I shall take these and add them to those seats for disbursements. When the next payment arrives, of course. Good day to you, Miss Minchin. 10 sympathy for the next Jessie event. Okay, what do I want next? It's been a while since we've done a Mariette event, or an Ermengarde event. Or Becky. Or Lottie. It's so hard to choose. Patience and grace. Maybe. I'm knowledge and sympathy. Sympathy is a fickle one. Let's hang with Becky again. I like Becky. Sarah picked up her doll and smiled at her. Also, secretly I kind of feel like Becky might be easier to complete because since she got introduced later, there's probably less events to go through, I imagine. Because I do kind of get this feeling of like, maybe is the birthday celebration the end of Act 1? And if so, it's probably would be better to try to get at least one other person all the way to completion than to have our affections spread about. Sarah picked up her doll and smiled at her. You're looking a trifle tired today, Emily. You must have been very busy while I was out of the room. She gave the doll's curls a carefree brushing, then tucked her into her own little cradle bed, arranging her hands to lie over the fabric cover. I think you feel better after a nap. I'm hoping that Becky will come to visit today, but we'll try to be quiet so that we don't disturb you. With the air of an expectant hostess, Sarah moved around the room, running her hands over shelves and turning cushions to be just so. The room was already perfectly neat, of course. Sarah was not an untidy child by nature, and anything she might have disarranged since Becky's last visit would have been set straight by Mariette. Still, it seemed the sort of thing a princess ought to do. Looking your best shows that you care about your visitors. Having reassured herself that everything was just so, she settled in at her desk with a sheet of sums to work for the classroom. £2, 12 shillings, 8 and a quarter pence, plus £1, 14 shillings, 5 and a quarter pence. Oh man, this is something. So when I was originally reading and watching Harry Potter, one of the things I was like, oh, that's a weird, quirky thing about the Wizarding World was the money, because it was not base 10 monetary system, right? Not decimalized. It was like, oh, I forget what the calculations were. It was something ridiculous. Like, oh, it's like 21 of the coppers to a silver and 12 silvers to a gold and something like that. Little did I know, and that I found out later on, apparently Britain was just straight up doing that. I don't think it was the exact conversions in Harry Potter, but their money just straight up had these weird conversions. I think up until the 70s or 80s, or surprisingly recently. And I guess this is where the typical YouTuber would go and say, oh, isn't that so weird and wacky? Why the heck would they ever do something so stupid? And then, as an American, then also be completely unaware of oh yeah, and also our systems of measurements over here has a lot of kind of arbitrary and hard to remember conversions. Though I will say in defense of the conversions, right? Because there's some defensive metric that I just don't buy, right? Like, there will be people who say, like, oh, metric is so good because it is built into the fabric of reality. We are measuring distance not with an arbitrary, like, little, this is what a meter is, but with the amount of time it takes light to move in a second. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, that's what the technical standard is. But also, you just picked an arbitrary length and then figured out how long light took to travel that distance. Like, we could do the same thing with feet and yards and whatnot. We just didn't bother because you already did the work with the metric system, so we just figured out we'll just use that already. But I think there was even something that was like, oh, it's really good because the kilometers is an exact amount around the Earth or some such. But it's like, look, go on. The real benefit of the metric system, and this is actually why the temperature system, why Celsius is not superior to Fahrenheit, right? I understand the argument in favor of metric over imperial. Celsius to Fahrenheit, I think that's more of just a matter of taste, quite frankly. If anything, Fahrenheit is a bit nicer because we have more, what's the term, like a higher definition, sorta, since going up a degree in Fahrenheit is less of a change in temperature than going up a degree in Celsius. And I don't care that Celsius is like water boiling and water freezing, because quite frankly, you never need to measure both of those things simultaneously, okay? It doesn't matter if they're like close together. Not to mention, whoever needs to measure whether or not something's boiling, right? The only time it even matters if water is boiling to me is if I'm like cooking up some pasta, and you know what I do there? I fill up a pot of water, put it on the stove, and then you know how I know when it's boiling? I don't take the temperature. I just see that it's boiling. Like, a measuring system where one of its foundational things is, it makes it easier to tell what temperature water boils. That's like, I don't care. It's really easy to tell when water is boiling. It's incredibly simple. It's just boiling. And there you go, now that you know what temperature it's at. I don't even know where I was going with that rant. Okay, yeah, but anyways. So I don't accept the Celsius defenders, right? I can accept that they're equivalent, but Celsius is not superior to Fahrenheit. You will never convince me otherwise. The big argument in favor of the metric system as a whole, though, is the conversions are easier. And there's merit to that. I agree. However, there's less merit than people actually... than the people, the evangelists, make you think. Because, like, okay, yeah. Is it a bit weird that it's 12 inches to a mile? Or not to a mile, 12 inches to a foot, and then 3 foot to a yard, and then like 1,000 and some yards to a mile. Like, yeah, it's kind of weird. And then I don't even use metric system, and I know, okay, it's 100 centimeters to a meter, it's 1,000 meters to a kilometer. I'm not even sure if they have, I guess, a decakilometer would be 10 kilometers. I'm not sure if that's a real measurement. That's, yeah, it's easy to figure out, I'll give you that much. You got like 100 grams or 1,000 grams to a kilogram, it would be. Yeah. But what I will say in defense of Imperial, how often, like, normally when you're measuring something, there's a certain, like, domain of size you're measuring, right? It's very rare that I am measuring something that simultaneously has to be accurate to the inch, where also the quantity of miles is relevant, right? Yeah, I might measure something that's like 2 feet in inches, but at that point, like, it's not that ridiculous to be like, oh, it's 16 inches instead of having to calculate, like, oh, it's actually 1 foot 4 inches. Yeah. So I just think the conversions don't actually come up as much as you would think. Because normally there is a specific domain of scale you're measuring. And then you don't typically need to convert out of that domain. Because that's the domain you're working with. Yeah, we're not all GPSs that are going to be stupid and, like, all of a sudden switch from, oh, it's 5 miles until they turn to, oh, it's 200 feet. Like, I don't know how long 200 feet is in a car. Like, come on. And then the other critique I have of metric, though, is because they have the uniform differences between the measurements, it means they have less flexibility to make the scales of the measurements make sense. Because the only lever they have to pull, right? This is a kind of a principle from game design, right? It's good to have a lot of different levers you can pull for like balancing a thing, right? So like in like Magic the Gathering or something, you know, you could change a card's text to balance it. You could change its health. You could change its attack. You could change how much it costs to put out there. And having a lot of different levers to pull means you can fine-tune the card more easily. In a similar sort of sense, there's less fine-tuning available in the metric system because every new measurement, like basically by law, has to be an order of magnitude either larger or smaller than a previous measurement. And sometimes an order of magnitude just doesn't give you a nice measurement, right? Like I mean, my go-to there thing is like the centimeter to the meter. Like a centimeter is really small to the point where it would be, you know, you're measuring something yay big and it's like, oh, it's like 40 centimeters or something, which is, you get into kind of largish numbers, or it's like, you know, we really would like to measure this in like feet instead. But then the meter, I mean, the meter's actually, anyway. The meter then is like longer than a yard, so it's impractical to measure most things, quite frankly, aside from like running. Like one of the things I like about Imperial is you can measure your height in feet, and it makes sense, right? It's like, oh, someone might say, oh, I'm 6 feet 2 inches, and like, okay, cool, great. If you do that in metric, I mean, either you're saying you're like 130 some centimeters tall, or you're gonna be like, I'm 1 meter 52 centimeters, or what have you. I know those are not a conversion to the same thing. I'm just throwing out random numbers. So yeah, that's my problem with the metric. And yes, I know you technically have the decimeter, but no one uses the decimeter. And also, it's only slightly less uncomfortably small. Like, it's like a gimped foot. And it doesn't really solve the problem. Like, what are you gonna say? You're gonna go around saying, oh yeah, I'm actually 14 decimeters and 7 centimeters tall. Like, no one says that. No one says that. Come on. Anyway, so now back to the game. Right, we're measuring money. How do we get onto the metric system? Anyways, that's 2 farthings, 8 and 5 pence make 1 shilling and 1 penny. Addition and subtraction were simple tasks, but the complications of British currency were such that they needed to be practiced over and over again to be certain one did not forget. Oh, and by the way, because this was part of the rant, it was supposed to be. I understand, I don't think the British currency thing is actually as weird as it's made out to be, because like, obviously, in the era of fiat currency, it kind of makes no sense. Like, you might as well make your currency something that's really easy to, like, add and subtract with. But also, I think it's like, now, I might be wrong about this. I haven't done a deep dive in the history of British currency, but I would assume it's like holdover from the days when it was like, you know, a pound is literally a gold coin that is like this specific size and whatnot. And I imagine the differences in the currency is just kind of the natural difference in value between like coins of different size and different types of metal and whatnot, which then I guess probably got carried over into the modern day long past they were justifiable. But I don't think, because if you have a precious metals based economy, it's actually going to be probably pretty difficult to fine tune your coinage such that you have a decimized currency. And it's going to more so just be like, well, that's what the value of this coin is, so that's what you're doing. Right? I mean, heck, with the international trading back in the day, a lot of it would be not even like, oh, a conversion rate of like, the pound is worth X amount of yen. It would be, okay, I have X weight of gold, and that's going to be the same regardless of what currency we're using, so literally our currency is worth its weight in gold in that case. That's, I think, where that phrase comes from. Anyway, so yeah. But in summary, British currency is hard, or was hard. Anyways, Becky's arrival was even more delightful when it meant putting those respective worksheets away. Becky! Come in, please sit down. She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Emily is resting today, so we must be calm and quiet for her sake. That's all right, miss. I'm tired today too. I made a wonderful discovery to share with you. I was out at the shops, looking in windows for things that might fit neatly into your pockets and not fall into crumbs. Look. With a proud smile, she procured a tray of 3 little meat pies, sealed up with tight topped with glazed crusts. Becky's eyes quite sparkled. Oh, miss, they'll be nice and feeling this, that's best. Sponge cake's an evenly thing, but sponge cake's an evenly thing, but it melts away like, if you understand, miss, they'll stay in your stomach. I don't believe it would be a good thing if pie stayed in your stomach for always. That line of thinking led somewhere indelicate, so she quickly abandoned it. I do hope they will be satisfying. As you had told me before about the cake, I could have brought something else before this. Beef sandwiches, perhaps, or rolls, and bologna sausage. All that for me, miss. Of course, why not? I like to share food with you. I like to see you enjoy yourself. None of the girls here ever enjoy cook's meals half so much. But I'd never have guessed you wanted something other than cake. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, please, miss. No one's ever been so kind to me before. Not even my own mum. How could I ask you for more? How could I? Were you afraid that if you asked for something and I said no, that I would be angry with you? Yes, no, miss. But you've done so many nice things for me. If I would be happy, that'd be right sour of me, you see. You wouldn't want me somewhat sour. Oh, Becky, you're never sour, not one bit. But we are friends, you and I. Friends, miss? Of course we are. And a friend isn't upset when a friend asks her for something, even if she might have to say no. I could have done this for you sooner if you hadn't kept it a secret what you wanted. Let's promise never to keep secrets from each other again. She held out her hand to seal the pact. Becky started to reach for it, then hesitated. Never at all, miss. What if there are some secrets that are nice, like surprises? Oh, I didn't think of that. You are very clever. Becky smiled in nervous agreement. I will make a better promise then. Let's promise to always trust each other if we need help, alright? Alright. They clasped hands. The scullery maid's palm was rough and calloused, but her fingers curled sweetly around Sarah's. Good. Sarah was playing hostess to Jessie at a tea party in her rooms, but upon this occasion Jessie's interest seemed more drawn to Sarah's French maid. Truly, the corset is no longer at the height of fashion? Not in Paris, mademoiselle. It is quite good enough in Provence. In London, the curved back and large bosom still dominates, but Paris must always be at the front of things, you see. Isn't it a lovely idea, Sarah? To be free, to move and breathe, to have a small chest, and to still be beautiful. If it is beautiful in Paris, then it must be beautiful elsewhere, even if people don't see it that way. The fashions in Paris are emulated all around the world, but it does take time. Marie Antoinette devised the fashion of shepherdesses, didn't she? Is she still... are we pre or post-Napoleon? Victorian era, that's gotta be post, right? Maybe? Hold on, I'm thinking, because the heads of state around World War I were mostly Queen Victoria's grandchildren. Napoleonic Wars are late 1700s, early 1800s. So yeah, Victoria has to be after that, then. I think. So we've got to be post-Napoleon. So, geez, Sarah, why are you bringing up the woman who got beheaded? It was not quite so, mademoiselle. As I have heard, the queen grew tired of the stiff bodice and jewels of court dress and wished something more light and simple. She designed gowns of soft thin muslin with much gathering and ruffled gowns that could be both beautiful and comfortable. That design in its own way may have led to many of the dresses young ladies, such as yourselves, wear now, Paris before all. I thought that the Queen wasn't very popular in France anymore. So wait, so are we pre-revolutionary France, then? Pre? No, that can't be right. Britain has control of India. That's after Napoleonic era, surely. Right? Because that's shortly after they lose the colonies, and the colonies in America. Right, that was part of what kicked off the French Revolution in the first place, is that the French crown went into debt, helping out the American colonies with the fights to get independence from Britain. India was in the whole second wave of British Empire. I don't think there was overlap between them having the American colonies in India. I could be wrong about that. Well, am I wrong about that? I don't think so. There are many who hate the royalty of the past and all that they represent, and others who still hope that the Sun King will come again. Oh, okay, so she's saying not she's unpopular now, but unpopular as a historical figure. Gotcha. Perhaps the crown will be restored one day. I do not know if it is not for my hands to decide. As for me, Marie Antoinette, some mock her memory, but I have always had my own sympathy. I believe it was named in her honor. Oh, how charming. As conversation turned from Marie Antoinette to the Celtic origins of Jessie's own name, Sarah's mind wandered into recollections of a book she had recently read. It was not entirely unrelated, for it had been a book about the French Revolution. Specifically, the prisoners of the Bastille, men who had spent so many years in dungeons that, when they were dragged out by their rescuers, their long grey hairs and beards covered their faces. After so many years trapped underground, they had forgotten that the outside world existed at all, and to them, walking into freedom was not so much walking from a dream as entering into one. To doubt the sun, to forget that there was such a thing as stars, those poor souls. And yet over time they must have learned to believe in their new world. England was very strange to me after living in India, but now it seems as real, or even more so, than my memories. Sarah? Huh? Oh, please excuse me, my thoughts began to rush away on their own. A pity that they can't carry us with them.